Welcome to Books to Boardrooms with Dr. Kiran. Today we have Mr. Surinder Singh Kandhari, the chairman of Al Dawabi Group. Mr. Surinder Singh, welcome to my show.
Thank you, Kiran. Thank you very much.
Can you just give me a little background of Al Dawabi Group?
First of all, I'd like to tell you that what Al Dawabi means. Al Dawabi means the man from Dubai.
Okay.
I came to Dubai in 1976, and when I went to the Dubai municipality to ask them for a trade license for my company, they said you have to get me a bank guarantee and a name. So I chose International Tire Company because that tire was my business. And I went there and that Mr. Abdul Ghaffar, who was the head of the licensing department, he said, I'm sorry, who gave you this name? I said, the name I chose myself is my company. He said, no, municipality has to approve. So he said, would you accept a name which we give you? I said, I don't care. I need to form a company, so whatever name you want to give me, I'm happy to take it. So after about 1 week, he made me go up and down. He gave me a name, Shirkat Al Dawabi Al Tairat. And I had no clue what it means in Arabic. So I went to the translator outside, asked him. He said, no, this is means Al Dawabi Tire Company. I said, very good. What is the meaning of Al Dawabi? He said, I do not know. Go and ask him who will give you the name. So I went back and he said, you're very lucky. This name is going to be for you for life. And Al Dawabi means the man from Dubai. So you're the man from Dubai. So I was very fortunate that I could get this good name. And today Al Dawabi is a worldwide famous name in the tire and battery industry. We have offices in 6 continents. We have customers in 100 countries. And we sell to everybody. Batteries, tires, rubber products, industrial products. And our main core business is tires and batteries and industrial products. Because when I left India, my father told me one thing, stick to your core business. So I stuck to that, and till today, I stick to the core business. And we have expanded geographically, but we do the same business every single country. We are in tires, we are in batteries, we are in industrial products. And I'm happy I listened to my father and stuck to the core business, because in core business, we know what we do. So we never can fail.
So I think I'll come to a lot of things you told in the first part, but I'll break it down to multiple parts. So you started as a trade tire distributor or a manufacturer here?
The reason why I came to Dubai was, those days in 1974, 75, India had taken up a big industrial revolution in tire manufacturing.
Okay.
But the consumers in India could not take the entire production of tires. And the oil boom had just started in the Middle East. So 2 companies, MRF and SEAT Tires, they approached my father and said, why don't you open in the Middle East so we can export tires to the Middle East. So I came to Dubai basically to sell MRF tires and SEAT tires. And that was my first business. But then coming here, looking at the opportunities and looking at the potential, we diversified into buying tires from Korea, from Japan, from Europe, from America. And then we entered into battery business. And battery business, now we are also manufacturers. In fact, our industrial battery business is, we are the 4th largest in the world. And we are hoping to be number 2 next year. Because I think we have to follow the ruler of Dubai's, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid's view of always trying to be number 1. So we also want to be number 1. We don't want to be number 2.
So you came with 2 brands, MRF and SEAT. And then how many brands of tires you have right now?
Today we represent about 23 brands.
So 23 brands you're distributing here.
Yeah, in not only in UAE, we have Saudi, Bahrain, Nigeria, Ghana, India, China. So we are selling to all countries now, and we have offices in these countries. Then we have Spain, we have UK, we sell all over Europe.
Okay,
we have 2 brands which are owned by us. One is Infinity, one is Eternity. And these 2 are private label brands where we contract manufacture in China and sell to about 65 countries in the world.
So that's an interesting strategy wherein you came with 2 brands, then you expanded by adding another 21 brands, distribution. Then you further expanded from UAE to the adjacent countries, then you went to Europe, Middle East, other parts of Europe, and now you're in 6 continents. So you adopted a market development strategy, then you developed a product development strategy. So what about batteries? I mean, how does battery manufacturing came into the picture? Because from a trading organization to a manufacturing organization, it's a big jump, it's a big change, right?
You see, because we were partners with Exide Batteries from the US. We had a manufacturing plant of automotive batteries in Jebel Ali. manufacturing automotive batteries is Exide. And Exide, the Manchester factory was manufacturing industrial batteries, and they closed the factory down
Okay.
for logistic reasons. So we got an opportunity. We said, fine, if you're closing the factory down, we can bring those people to Dubai and put a manufacturing plant in the UAE. And we brought the whole technical team, set up a plant in Ras Al Khaimah, industrial battery plant. And today, from this plant, we expanded into opening a factory in Spain, in Germany, in Manchester, in Dallas, and now in India. So we are trying to replicate the idea of growing geographically and growing our production base to various countries. Now, manufacturing has been a very interesting subject for us because here we control from end to end. We start from like in Dubai, our factory is 100% local.
Okay.
In the sense, we buy the raw material here, we produce the battery here and export it from here. And everything is fully made in UAE.
So is that the first unit in UAE, similar
Our industrial battery plant is the first unit in the whole of Middle East.
in the whole of Middle East? So when you say you get the raw materials here, so there are raw material manufacturing units also in UAE for batteries?
Now, the raw material for a battery plant is basically the used batteries.
Okay.
You put a smelting plant, extract the lead from the batteries, extract the plastics. That's the raw material for the batteries.
Okay. So you have so manufacture, it's like a made in UAE product.
Absolutely.
And you're selling it across the world, and now you're opening branches or manufacturing units in different parts for logistics help.
Absolutely. Because I think UAE has got a fantastic name all over the world. The whole world wants to come to Dubai. The whole world thinks Dubai is a charisma. And all the charismatic influence of Dubai all over the world helps us a lot in our business. Because whenever we go to anywhere in the world and say we are from Dubai, they all know Dubai. So it becomes very easy for us.
So the introduction pitch is much easy because you're from.
Much easier. And you see, and we have most of our blue collar people in the factory are all from India. Like we have a factory accommodation in Ras Al Khaimah. We provide them food, we provide them entertainment, we have a computer room, theatre, everything in the gym, in the quarters of the staff. So they're quite well contained. So they work 24/7.
So if I ask a little deviated from the manufacturing and selling, because you're talking about people management, how important is that as a leader that you take care of your employees? And most of the companies, they give maybe an accommodation allowance, or they have just a labor camp or something like that. What you're saying that you're providing, the full meal, an employee working in a plant, coming tired home or to his accommodation, but he got everything like a theater, you have a computer room, recreational age, food, you don't need to cook anything. So what made you do those things?
I don't like the word employee. I'm sorry to say that. Because every member of our group is a family member. We treat every person in the group as a part of the family. I call it the Al Dabowi family.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, even the person who makes tea for me every morning in the office is very important to us. Because a good cup of tea by him makes my mood good all day. And the CEO and the tea boy are no different people. They're all human beings. So we believe that unless we treat people well, how will they work well? They all are family members. I never call them I don't call any of my people working for me as employees. I call them part of the Al Dabowi family. And that is the secret of our success. Every person feels he owns the company. He's part of the company. He owns the company because that's what is important to us. Unless a person takes on ownership, unless a person takes on responsibility, he will never give you 100%. Now we see to it that the people are comfortable. Like, when the pandemic started, the first thing we did was every single member of our staff, of our family was vaccinated by us. We saw to it in Ras Al Khaimah, in Dubai, in Sharjah, in Abu Dhabi, everybody got vaccinated. So we took care of them because we are concerned. We have 200 people in Quain in our industrial product division. The first thing we got them all vaccinated. So we had 0 COVID cases in our whole group, which was a fantastic thing. You're taking care of people, they take care of you.
I think, of course, I think that's one of the things which commonly hear right now, that people leave organization not because of salaries and other benefits. If the culture and the management is not that great, that's why people leave organization.
Absolutely.
But you're proving it correct by saying that I'm creating a culture within my organization where people feel it's my family, and you don't leave your family. You can have disagreements, but you don't leave your family. So you create that type of a culture within your organization where employees feel that I'm taken care of very well. So if I take care of my job part really well, the company is going to take care of me also very well going forward too. So how you got into that mindset? I mean, and do you, when you hire people, I'm sure you have people in hiring management, the CEOs and other managing directors and managers. So do you tell these things as a part of the orientation that when you are hiring?
Absolutely. In fact, the CEO, CFO, and the HR department, they know very well my mission and my vision. The two important things. My mission is to succeed and be number one in the world. And the vision is to take care of everybody. Because unless the people are with me, unless they give the 100%, how can I grow? Because I'm only one person. Now we have over 2,500 people working for us in the group. And those 2,500 people work so hard that I can sit in front of you and talk to you comfortably. Because they are doing all the hard work. And I owe it to them. Because they are my family. If they don't work, then how will I sit with you?
I think this is one of the things. I think most of the successful organization, when you do a lot of survey, you come to know that employees are not very happy, but because they don't have any other option, they are working, and employees are getting, utilized for organizational increase in profitability. When you talk about your mission is to take care of my employees along with the vision of growing, I think this goes hand in hand. You take care of employees, the employees help you to grow, and then you can have a little more peaceful, organized strategies going forward to ensure that you are able to deliver what you want. Absolutely. So important thing, one, definitely people. The second thing is product for sure. So you have a range of 23 different brands of tires and batteries. You have your own manufacturing. How important is this external environment when it comes to the government, being in Dubai, for which help you to grow or invest more to grow? How important is that?
Before I go into that field, I would like to add one more thing. The most important thing is quality and service. If any manufacturer does not lay stress on quality of his products and doesn't deliver goods in time and doesn't give the proper service, he cannot be successful. The two important ingredients of success is have a good quality product and deliver in time. I mean, give proper good service. The most important thing is if your customer is happy, because as far as we are concerned, the customer is king. Customer gives our daily bread and butter. If the customer is not happy with us, how can we succeed? I'll give you a small example. Like, I was in China in 2002 when we started bargaining to get a private brand of tires. I told the manufacturer very clearly, charge me 5% more, I don't care. But I want a quality tire with full warranty and guarantee. So that tomorrow, if any car going at 150, 200 km speed, and the tire bursts and people die, I don't want to be called a murderer. For me, that's very important. Looking after people, looking after my customers, looking after my people, that is important. And if you have a quality product, you can never fail. If you give proper good service to your customers, you will never fail. So these two ingredients are very important. Coming to your question of the local environment, I think Dubai has got an amazing situation of supporting good business. Because I think the government is very proactive, very pragmatic in promoting good business systems here. We have no red tapeism involved. We have total freedom to do what we want to do. What we do the right thing, nobody can disturb us. And if you do a quality stuff, they all appreciate it. And I'll tell you one thing, made in UAE products, wherever you go in the world, it has a great reputation. And here, I would say I would give the credit to the government because they have put such systems in place. Like, in Ras Al Khaimah, in our factory, we follow every single environmental issue. Our factory in Jebel Ali, fully environmental issues. We have to take care. You see, like we are dealing in lead. Lead is poison. Now, if I don't take care of my staff, my family, and if people are not used to using lead, it can be a problem. So every day we serve them a banana and a glass of milk. Now you wonder what a banana and glass of milk can do. But banana and glass of milk can reduce the lead level in the blood.
Okay.
This we thought of it when we started the first factory. How do we control? Because all our people are our own family. If one person would die because of our negligence, also we rotate the staff. See, those are in the front line in the assembly or front line in the production. We keep shifting them.
Okay.
So that they work for 6 months in one particular line, 6 months some other line. So that the lead level is
come down.
And we kept them every 6 months. We test our employees. Every 6 months,
You test your employees.
every employee in the factory has to be tested.
So,
With his blood level, and we have full record.
so if I may ask you, do you have any employee turnover then? Like people leaving?
In Russell Khaimah, I would say zero.
Okay.
We have people working with us last. This factory is now 2009, so it's now 12 years old, and we have 12 years people working with us. We
So I
have only
think-
grown. We are not reduced.
I think that's one of the most important challenge because these are technical people, right?
Actually, people working for me from 1976.
I think that really shows how
Because we don't let
committed.
people go. Because I think those people are assets. They're the pillars of the company. Because they have built the company. So if I don't take care of them, and most of the people I have given education for their children. Like few of employees had some heart issues, some issues, they passed away. Every employee who has passed away, his children are taken care of us by education. We educate the children.
So
till they become graduate.
So you play a very important role in ensuring that social CSR or social corporate responsibility.
Absolutely. CSR is most important. I think I would say is the government has a rule of promoting CSR, but not as a law.
Yeah.
I think they should introduce a law. Like in India,
Yeah.
every government department has got a law that 2% has to go for CSR. Every company has to give. I think the UAE should do that also, because most of the companies don't do it.
Yeah.
They should spend 2% of the turnover as a CSR, which is very, very important, because this is what is required.
So apart from when it comes to corporate social responsibility, one, of course, you have a responsibility towards your employees. Then, of course, to the management and the stakeholders. What about the society? Do you what the Al Dawabi? How important society is for you? Because you are in a different country, but do you take care of the society?
This is my favorite subject. I talk about it everywhere. In 2008, we were very fortunate. The Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the Vice President and Prime Minister of UAE and the ruler of Dubai, was very benevolent and generous to give us land of 25,400 square feet to build the first Sikh temple in the UAE. So in the Jabal Ali Gardens, we got the land free. We built our first Sikh temple, which is now, it was opened in 2012. It took us 4 years to build it because we wanted to build state-of-the-art temple, which is world class. And today our Gurdwara, as they say it in Hindi, in Punjabi, is world famous. Every person in the world, every Sikh in the world knows that the Dubai Gurdwara is there. Because we don't treat it as a Gurdwara alone, we treat it as a community center. Where everybody, whether he's a Hindu, Christian or Muslim, all are allowed to come to the Gurdwara, all get free food. Before the COVID started, we had over 2,000 people coming and having free food every single day.
Every day.
Every single day. And Fridays, over 15,000 people. On festival days, over 50,000 people. And the people ask me, where did the money come from? So I gave them a famous story of Mother Teresa. When she built the first church in Calcutta, she had 2 rupees in the pocket. And she said, I'm going to build a church. And people laughed at her. Mother, with 2 rupees, how you can build a church? She said, I'm not building my house. I'm building God's house. God will build it himself. So same theory we apply here. And believe you me, till date, we have never had a single dirham shortage in the temple. Money comes automatically. I never ask for anybody to give any money, but people give offerings. And that offerings we serve to the community. In fact, when the pandemic started, the government had closed the Gurdwara down and we could not serve food to anybody. So we went out of our way, went to the labor camps. So all the blue collar camps in the UAE, we supplied them food. We supplied over 150,000 kilos of food.
So you see that, I think that's one of the other important things. Like I think whoever is listening to this need to really understand that to build up a successful business is not about looking at the profitability and the revenue increase, which makes the business group the most good or memorable group. It's all about what you do for the people, because end of the day, any business is about the enrichment of people working in the organization, their families and their upbringing. So you're taking care of that, their health. And not only that, then you're taking care of a society. I mean, there must be people in any society who are underprivileged, may not be getting. If you are getting 2,000 people coming and eating, I'm sure they feel blessed coming to your place, and their blessings and showering will always be there. I think maybe your group is growing just because of these type of support and appreciation from the society. And you've seen that from the rulers of Dubai, because they gave you the first land, and then you are giving it back to the society.
Absolutely.
Making the place one of the best places to work with. So I think a lot of my interviews were mostly doing with how a business is growing and what should you do and stuff like that. But I think this is one interesting conversation which I'm having with you, wherein I think this is something which any entrepreneur should be listening to, any HR manager should be listening to, or any manager who's listening to an organization, that if you take care of your employees really well, it can mean anything: health, security, social responsibility. You don't need to really worry about and micromanage them, say that are they working, what are they doing, because they know that they will do. And having a 0% turnover, because most of the organizations are facing that as a major challenge. They train them, they leave. Why? Because they're not giving a better environment. So now you're having the same employees working for such a long period of time. You have employees working for more than 50, 40 years.
We are one family.
You're one family.
And I'll tell you one thing, I think it's very important. God has given us everything. Me particularly, I'm very grateful to God for everything I have got. If I don't take care of God's human beings, if I don't take care of people who are also God's children, who are my brothers and sisters, I'm not doing justice. I'm not going to take all the money with me upstairs. There's no bank upstairs to hold my draft. So better give it downstairs to people.
No, I think that's what I'm saying. So if every entrepreneurs or every business owners listen to this and see that it's only bring you success. It's not that it brings you trouble at any point of time. So if during COVID time you took employees first, you vaccinated them, you ensured that they are taken care of, so that their families don't need to worry about whether they're working there or anything like that. So you have done that. You have done a community vaccination for also people who are not able to go there.
There were 5,000 people we vaccinated in the Gurdwara.
Exactly.
Every caste, we just opened the doors. Whoever wants vaccine, please come.
No, I think that's I visited Gurudwara, so I can say that nobody asked me what religion you are before you enter Gurudwara, whether to eat.
This is God's house, and you're God's child.
So I think that's what I'm saying. The interview is taking a different turn, where, of course, the first part you talk about the way in which you grew from a normal, a single shop trading company of tires to a multinational business venture. I think the way you could grow is all because you took care of the employees. Then you take care of the sustainability part of corporate social responsibility, environmental part you are taking care of. So these are all the key. If I, instead of you saying that what are the key factors for success of being an entrepreneur, I think you have done all these things, and I can say these are the very important reasons why you are so successful today.
What I must add here, apart from all this what I have done, I must say it's God's grace. If there's no God's grace, you can't succeed.
I think the God's grace is all to do with what you do. I just want to know, how does COVID impacted your business? Is there any impact?
Initially, I would say in March 20th, when the business got closed down, April was a difficult time because we had to really shut down the business totally, because we were also scared. We did not know what was going to be the outcome. But we opened in the middle of May, and since then we haven't closed down.
Okay.
In fact, our business last year improved by 30% because people were afraid to import, people were afraid to invest, and I thought, no, this is the right time. In any difficulty, there's an opportunity, and I believe in that very strongly. I'll tell you, in 1990, when Saddam Hussein took over Kuwait, people thought Dubai is finished, and they all wanted to leave Dubai and go away, and I stuck to Dubai. I said, nothing doing. The world will not allow Saddam Hussein to live too long. And this is the best time. I imported a lot of tires and batteries in that year. The bank manager was worried that what are you going to do with all stock if Saddam Hussein takes over? I said, Saddam Hussein will never come to Dubai, and I'll be the only person having a lot of stock. And we made tons and tons of money in 1 year, in 1990. So also in the COVID situation, I took the same decision. We imported a lot of tires and batteries. We were the rulers.
So you say
it's opportunity.
So yeah. So when at any issue, I think the decision making becomes one of the key crucial success factors.
Very important. You see, if a person is, there's a saying in Hindi, you say it, "Jo dar gaya so mar gaya." So I would say, never get scared. If you're scared, you're finished.
So one of the key success for any entrepreneur is to take bold decisions.
Absolutely.
And not go with the market way, go maybe opposite direction.
See, I'm not taking risks. I'm making
Calculated
a strategic decision.
Yeah.
I would call it strategic decision because we thought at this time when people are scared to import, there'll be shortage tomorrow. And our battery business went up 30%. In fact, people in Europe and America, they had to stop the factories. And our Ras Al Khaimah factory didn't stop for even 1 day. So we supplied all over Europe and America. The biggest market today as far as America.
Okay.
So we opened a factory in Dallas now. We have a factory in Spain, in Germany, in UK, and we are pumping in batteries after batteries and supplying to the market because people in the States and Europe are afraid. We are not afraid.
I think so. So sometimes bold decisions as a leader you need to take to ensure
You have
that.
to lead from the front.
Yeah.
If you have to be a successful leader, you have to lead from the front. And here I would like to pass a message to all your students of your university that unless your integrity is good, sincerity is there, hard work and self-confidence, you can never succeed. You should have faith in your own self. Have the confidence in your own self that you can succeed. And if you say you can succeed, you will never fail. Every day in the morning, you should look in the mirror and say, I'm the best. And that day will make you the best.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Surinder Singh. I mean, this is amazing talking to you. I'm sure not only students, I mean, whoever is watching this, who will be watching this instead of like, it can be an HR manager, it can be any entrepreneurs, the students, your words of wisdom will be amazing. And I'm sure they will implement it in their real life, in their professional life for all the success. Thanks a lot for coming for this particular show, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Dr. Kiran. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm really happy if my message can help somebody to improve, help somebody to grow. It'll be the biggest achievement from my side. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Thank you. I'm sure you must have had a different type of an interview today, where he talks about strategies for growth from a single shop to a multinational conglomerate with manufacturing, distribution, retailing, employee management. We spoke about the leadership qualities. I hope you all enjoyed this. Do share me your feedback about this particular interview, and if any questions, I will directly let him know and get you the feedback. Till I see you next time, thank you.